I am Nikhil Kumar. I am professor in the Department of English of Veer Kunwar Singh University, Ara in Bihar in India. At present, I shall speak on Sri Aurobindo's vision of the future poetry. His vision of the future poetry is essentially the vision of the yogic consciousness. It is by this yogic consciousness that he could enter into the transcendent divine consciousness. To use his terminology, the transcendent supramental consciousness. In his book, The Future Poetry, he writes in the opening lines that he agrees with the vision of James Cudgens that English literature on the one hand and Indian temperament and mind on the other are likely to determine the future of poetry. Here I would like to say that since he is a man of a very high plane of yogic consciousness, humility is the essential feature of his character. Therefore, he is speaking of likelihood. In fact, he looks into the future and visualizes that these two factors, English literature on the one hand and Indian mind and temperament on the other, will determine the future of poetry. It is not only a matter of his vision of the future. When we look at his monumental epic Savitri, we find that of these two factors, his Savitri is the evidence. His epic Savitri is the future poetry. It is in fact the precursor of the future poetry. Savitri he has written from the plane of the transcendent divine supramental consciousness. While speaking of the future of poetry, Sri Aurobindo only speaks of the planes of spiritual consciousness, which is below the plane of supramental consciousness. But when we keep or take his Savitri into our consideration, in fact, Savitri goes beyond the plane of the spiritual consciousness. So, we have to take the consciousness which is manifesting in Savitri into our consideration while discussing the future of poetry. The plane from where he has written his epic Savitri has not yet evolved into the earth nature. Mankind is yet to evolve to the plane of the transcendent supramental consciousness. But when I limit myself only to the vision of future poetry as presented by Sri Aurobindo, Sri Aurobindo speaks of the planes of spiritual consciousness which exist within the domain of the mental consciousness. Not the supramental consciousness. Supramental exists beyond the plane of mental consciousness, within which this spiritual consciousness exists. Though I have spoken of the planes of spiritual consciousness which Sri Aurobindo and other rishis have discovered in our some previous lectures, here it is necessary for us to concentrate once again what is the spiritual consciousness on the plane of mind. Spiritual consciousness exists above the plane of intellectual mind. It is that plane of mental consciousness where we have the realization of the existence of the one divine. And Sri Aurobindo has discovered 4 planes of spiritual consciousness: higher mind, illumined mind, intuitive mind, and overmind consciousness. Overmind consciousness is the summit of spiritual consciousness on the plane of mind, and beyond that the plane of mind ends and the plane of supramental consciousness exists. Mind consciousness or mental consciousness is basically the separative principle of the essential divine consciousness. It can be also called a divided consciousness. It is called spiritual consciousness because on this plane of mental consciousness we have the realization of the existence of one divine. One is able to visualize, realize the existence of one divine either within some object, some human being or creatures, or beyond that. But the very realization of the existence of one divine on the plane of mind consciousness is the spiritual consciousness or the spiritual mind consciousness. Sri Aurobindo discovers 4 planes of spiritual consciousness, as I have told you just now. He says very specifically that poetry which is written from some higher plane of intuitive mind consciousness and over mind consciousness is mantra. It is the poetic expression of the deepest spiritual reality. Mankind is yet to evolve to the plane of to these planes of the spiritual consciousness. Man is presently under the grip of those planes of consciousness which exist much below the plane of spiritual mind consciousness. So mankind is yet to evolve. But Sri Aurobindo visualizes that man is destined to evolve to those planes of spiritual consciousness. So at the base of his vision of future poetry, it is the evolution of consciousness to the planes of spiritual consciousness. He says very categorically that Vedas, Upanishads and Gita have been written from the plane of overmind consciousness. Though mantra in general is the poetry, as I have told you just now, which is written from some higher plane of the intuitive mind consciousness and overmind consciousness, the Vedas, Upanishads and the Gita are written from the plane of the spiritual consciousness, so they are mantra. In his book The Future Poetry, Sri Aurobindo analyzes the English poetry and finds that English poetry is evolving to those planes of spiritual consciousness where from the mantra is written. He says that English poetry is following the path of the general evolution. In general evolution, the first order of existence which has come is matter, then life, then mind. Mind is the third order of existence which has emerged in this evolution. So when mind was born, it took up the first principle, that is the matter principle, to evolve in itself. So a plane of consciousness emerges which he calls physical mind consciousness. Then there emerges life consciousness in mind which he calls vital mind consciousness. Then in course of evolution, mind takes up its own principle, and a third order of mental consciousness comes into existence which he calls mental mind consciousness. And for an ordinary man, this mental mind consciousness can be understood by the word intellectual mind consciousness. And then there emerges the spiritual consciousness, where we have the realization of the one divine in the domain of mind consciousness. So he says that the age of Chaucer in English poetry manifests the physical mind consciousness. The Elizabethan age manifests the vital mind consciousness. That is to say, the Elizabethan poetry manifests the vital mind consciousness. Then there comes 17th century, and he said that in the 17th century it is the mental mind which comes into manifestation. And then comes the age which is called the Romantic Revival poetry. Elizabethan is the period of Romanticism, but it goes into the darkness in the 17th century. But again later on Romanticism comes back, of which Wordsworth, Shelley, Keats are the representative poet. We have Coleridge also, we have Byron also. So then in this period of Romantic Revival, there is the emergence of spiritual consciousness. And the writings of Wordsworth, Shelley, Keats, Byron go to contribute to the evolution of English poetry to the plane of mantric consciousness. He speaks of the poems of A.E. He further speaks of W.B. Yeats. Sri Aurobindo lauds the contribution of W.B. Yeats to English poetry for its evolution to the plane of mantric consciousness. So he visualizes that in this way, since consciousness is evolving gradually, not only among British poets but throughout the world, so poetry is destined to evolve to those planes of spiritual consciousness from where the mantra is written. But in order to rise to the plane of spiritual consciousness, we are required to undertake the integral yoga of Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo's integral yoga consists of the yoga of psychicization, the yoga of spiritualization, the yoga of supramentalization. Psychicization is the soul transformation. We are made up of body, life and mind, and the soul is behind these body, life and mind. They are the instruments of soul. So we have to take up a yoga by which soul comes in the front and takes over the command of body, life and mind, as a result of which the very divine consciousness of the divine self will percolate into these three constituent parts of man's being, and this is what Sri Aurobindo calls psychicization or soul transformation of body, life and mind. because as a result of the soul transformation of these three constituent parts, there will be no gravitational pull of the separativity of consciousness. And after undergoing this yoga of soul transformation of body, life and mind, we shall be able to ascend the planes of spiritual consciousness decisively. There will be no gravitational pull of the separativity of consciousness as a result of the psychicization or the soul transformation of body, life and mind. And when we rise to the plane of intuitive mind consciousness, some higher plane of intuitive mind consciousness and over mind consciousness, poetry will be able to, or rather the poet will be able to have the unison of the three essential intensities which exist in a poetic speech. Here let us know that there are essentially three elements in a poetic speech. The first one is the element of the soul's vision of the truth. The second one is the thought substance and interwoven verbal form, and the third one is the rhythmic movement. These are the three essential elements in a poetic speech. In mantra, these three elements are at their highest intensities, and there is a unison of these three, unison of the highest intensities of these three elements of poetry. There are so many great poetic works which lack either of these three, as a result of which they fail to attain the status of mantra. Sri Aurobindo says that in course of the history of the evolution of yogic consciousness of man, it has been found that so many yogis ascended the planes of spiritual consciousness without undergoing the psychic transformation or psychicization of the constituent parts of their beings, which are, as I have told you, the body, the life and the mind. So since they could not undertake the psychic transformation of their body, life and mind, there was the gravitational pull of the separativity of consciousness existing within these three essential parts of the beings of man. So as a result of the operation of the gravitational pull of the separativity of consciousness, so many yogis had fall from the planes of spiritual consciousness. So in that case, when somebody writes poetry, either of these three elements lack, and such poetry cannot be categorized as the mantra. So many, actually Aurobindo also says that sometimes it also happens that when we rise to some higher planes of spiritual consciousness, under the pressure of the spiritual consciousness and power, somebody goes without any effort, rather under the pressure of the higher powers of spiritual consciousness, undergoes the psychic transformation of their body, life and mind. But for us it is important to undergo the yoga of the psychicization of our body, life and mind. So when we undergo or undertake this yoga of psychicization and then climb on the planes of spiritual consciousness, there will be no fall. The planes of intuitive mind consciousness and over mind consciousness are very much near the plane of transcendent divine supramental consciousness. So due to this nearness, these two planes are very much vibrant with the divine consciousness, as a result of which there exist creative features in mantra. The mantra comes to be a revealed poetry, means the truth of the transcendent divine is revealed here. The linguistic science of a mantra or a mantric poetry is no more arbitrary, it is revelatory in nature. And mantra has been called by the Vedic rishis the inspired poetry. So mantra is creative poetry because when we study mantra or when we listen to the chanting of mantras, the very divine consciousness, transcendent divine consciousness, which is enveloped in the words of mantra, descend into our being and plays a very important role in releasing us from the clutches of the separativity of the consciousness which exists within the body, life and mind. So this evolutionary role is the creative feature of mantra. It is creative in some other terms, such as it develops not only certain supra-earthly faculties in us or even some higher earthly faculties in us, it also evolves certain higher planes of existence within this creation itself, within this universe itself. So let us come to the point of this inspiration in mantra. I have told you that mantra has been found to be the inspired poetry. So what is this inspired poetry, or what is the inspiration in the mantra? So Vedic rishis have said that mantra exists within the deepest recesses of human consciousness. That is to say, it is within our divine self there exists the divine voice. And when we undergo the yoga of psychicization, or when psychicization takes place, either as a result of undertaking the yoga of psychicization or as a result of pressure from some higher planes of spiritual mind consciousness within us, the very divine self rises from its plane of divine self. And since we are made up of the body sheath, life sheath and mind sheath, the very divine voice comes on this or enters into this matter sheath, life sheath and mind sheath to finally come to the plane of our surface consciousness, so that we could hear the divine voice. So there is the hearing of the divine voice on the plane of mantric consciousness. For this hearing, Vedic rishis use the word Shruti. So the very movement of divine self, right from its own plane of divinity to the plane of matter sheath in us, life sheath in us, in mind sheath us, is in fact experienced as inspiration. It is the true inspiration, it is the divine inspiration. Therefore Vedic rishis have called mantra as the divine, as the inspired poet. So when we come to Sri Aurobindo's Savitri, we find that the inspiration of a transcendent nature takes place on the plane of supramental consciousness. So as I have stated that Savitri has been written from the plane of supramental consciousness, the manifestation of which we find throughout the poem. Savitri consists of 24,000 lines, and such experience of the supramental manifestation we find in all the lines. And for an example, I would like to cite the very opening line of Savitri. The opening line is, it was the hour, H-U-R hour, before the gods, G capital, gods awake. So, Sri Aurobindo makes it very clear in his different writings that the gods are in fact the chief cosmic functionaries. There are so many cosmic functions in this universe and they are the chiefs. Since they are sleeping, means there is no cosmic function which is operative. That is to say that cosmic functions are in a suspended state, and this is the pre-creation state of existence. Further he says, across the path of the divine event, E capital. This divine event is the phenomenon of the evolution itself, the evolution of consciousness, the evolution of a species itself. So that is to say, all the lines very clearly, very unmistakably manifest the supramental consciousness. So we shall realize that Savitri is the poem or is the poetry which has been written from the transcendent supramental plane of consciousness, and this is the transcendent mantra. Savitri is the transcendent mantra. So many divine truths we find to have been eclipsed or in the Vedas, Upanishads and the Gita. That is to say, there are certain divine truths which could not be visualized by the Vedas, Upanishads and the Gita. One of them is the D capital divine transformation of the matter itself, not only earth, matter itself. Sri Aurobindo says that the transcendent divine consciousness will descend into, not only into the earth nature, but it will descend into the matter, and that transcendent divine consciousness will be established and matter will come under the rule of the transcendent divine consciousness. So this is what he calls the supramental transformation of matter itself. Such a truth could not come into the vision of the Vedic rishis. So Savitri is the transcendent mantra, it is the future mantra, and mankind is evolved to the planes of intuitive mind consciousness, overmind consciousness, and finally to the plane of supramental consciousness. That's all.